What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Dylan, it's Mitch, it's Kev. We're here for episode 10 of the Bottom Line podcast. We've hit double digits. It's been a little bit over 2 months. It's been exciting. Good football content given you here every single week, except for last week, but we're not going to talk about that. It's here this week with everybody here. We got Mitch. Mitch, how you doing today?
I'm awesome, bro. I got my Garoppolo jersey. It's in. I'm ready to go. I posted it on the YouTube community. I said, this is securely my NFC team for 2019. I've made it official. Made it official.
That's your bandwagon. That's what you're going for. That's who you're rooting for. So we're
sorry,
looking
Kev.
at
Sorry, Kev.
We're looking at a Patriots 49ers Super Bowl with the old backup quarterback taking on Tom Brady. You know, we want all the hype. We want all that kind of story. And then we got, of course, Kev, Father Hawk. How you doing today, Kev?
I'm good. I'm just I'm looking forward to watching that Garoppolo jersey be dirtied at least a few times this week. It's a kind of a nice jersey, but it's whatever. Good to see you all. Just so you know, there are no helicopters flying around here, and Kawhi Leonard is not here at this point in time.
Oh, damn it. All this Kawhi talk, it's been 6 days. And, in honesty, I had to wear my Chris Carter shirt because he's been reporting about Kawhi for the last 6 days. It's just been nonstop bonanza. So here's your shirt for the week. I appreciate that. Maybe he's not even going to break it today. So it's disappointing. What also is disappointing is we have no Luka this week. We thought we were going to have him on the show. Things got canceled. We're moving around it. Hopefully we're going to get something out. I'm not going to announce a date until it's confirmed, but we're trying to work something out for a reschedule.
You know what it is, right?
What's that?
He's scared.
Oh, he's scared.
Luka's scared. I'm calling you out, bro. Get on the podcast.
Oh, damn. He's not going to like that. He's going to be like, oh, I got to come at 5 times. He was studying. You know what I mean? He was told the test was today, and he's like, you know what? I just need a couple more days. He doesn't know the questions, which is weird, but he knows he's got to study for this because these guys are excited for it. I'm excited for it. We're going to get it there. I promise you. I've been waiting 4 years for this. I'm not just going to let it go after 1 second or after one chance. So today, we're going to be talking about our top 5 underrated running backs and receivers. I wanted to get these kind of lists out there for guys that I think that are underappreciated in the league. And a lot of guys, there's a lot of things we can talk about here. And we want to get to these, groups here. So I want to talk about that. Also, we're doing a Q&A session. Any question you guys want to ask myself, Mitch, Kev, the whole group even. You can even ask about AC. If you want to ask those questions and more, you can leave the comments below, and we'll get to that a little bit later on.
You can specifically ask Kevol about AC. That would be ideal.
We're pumping out the big fight boxing match July 17th. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. But that would be great. If you guys have any questions about that, let us know, and we'll answer them as well. And then, of course, it's just like a free-flowing podcast where we talk about discussions about stuff we don't normally get to talk about because we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks. We haven't been on here in 2 weeks. So, it's the first time we're getting to discuss a little bit of everything. So hope you guys enjoy it. First off, let's get to that top 5 underrated list. I'm going to go ahead and start with the top 5 underrated running backs in the game. Now, running backs are a big form of football. They're a big expression of what we see here every single week. They're really fun to watch. They're very underrated in their own likes. They've only won 2 MVPs, I believe, since the new millennium. So it's not an easy achievement to be a running back. It's a very hard duty being one. And I think these guys in the league are very underappreciated, underrated, in my opinion. So I think we're gonna have a bunch of different lists here. I don't know how, if we're gonna agree on stuff or we think one guy's underrated, one guy's overrated. We'll see about that. That's why I like making these lists because I feel like they're very different. We don't congregate about these until we go live. So I think this is gonna be very interesting. We're gonna go 5, 5, 5, et cetera, et cetera. I want to go with Kev first. Kevo, who is your number 5 underrated running back?
My number 5 underrated running back is a legend in the Seattle Seahawks community. No, I'm kidding. No, my number 5 Seattle.
Just so you guys know, his whole top 5 is going to be Seahawks.
Yeah, exactly. There's an echo there. My number 5 is Marlon Mack of the Indianapolis Colts. This is a guy that didn't get a lot of attention. I know that they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Andrew Luck was able to produce a lot. And this guy quietly had a really good season last year as the Indianapolis Colts have risen. And I think that when we think about the Indianapolis Colts, we think about a guy that might be on a couple of other guys. We think about the year that Eric Ebron had. We think about T.Y. Hilton. We think about Darius Leonard. We think about Andrew Luck. But what Marlon Mack did, I think, was very underappreciated. So I have him number 5 on my list, Marlon Mack of the Indianapolis Colts.
I like that, Kev. I like that the Colts were involved in there. It's a little bit of an interesting pick. Not the most hyped up guy in there. I think fully qualifies for the underrated list. Mitch, what do you got at number 5?
At number 5, I actually considered Marlon Mack for my list. Good pick, Kevol. I'm going with a running back who would be considered a backup running back in the NFL. It's Austin Eckler of the LA Chargers.
Ooh.
Austin Eckler last season played 14 games. He averaged 5.2 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 554 yards. But he can also catch the football. 27 catches in 2017, 39 in 2018. I think he's steadily gotten better over his first 2 seasons in the NFL. And I do believe at a certain point in time, he's going to go to a team that's outside of LA and probably have more of an important role. Now, he plays an important role with the Chargers now as the primary backup to Melvin Gordon and also kind of a change of pace back. But I could see him kind of forming more of a 1-2 punch somewhere else once he becomes a free agent, because I do believe he's going to get paid. So Austin Eckler is a really nice change of pace back in the NFL right now that I think is getting a little bit underappreciated.
I like it. A little bit of a curveball. I wasn't expecting Austin Eckler there. He's a prime candidate as well. I like that. I don't have him on my list, but certainly a good candidate. At number 5 for me, I have Kerryon Johnson, the running back of the Detroit Lions. You guys know him. He was a second-round draft pick for the Lions in 2018. He got to start off, and it looked like a really good fit for him and the Lions offense. I specifically have been laughing about their running offense for years because they couldn't get a 100-yard rusher. Kerryon Johnson was the guy to finally get it done when the offense decided, Matt Patricia decided, I think this guy is pretty good. And then they mixed other running backs in there, Theo Riddick especially, and kind of threw the game off a little bit. But what Kerryon Johnson was able to produce in the 7 games he started was really good. 641 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 1 receiving touchdown and over 200 yards receiving. He did get hurt, so he wasn't able to play the last couple of games of the season. But overall, I think this is a guy coming into year 2 with a Detroit offense that I think is going to work really well. He's going to put in some good yards. I think 1,000 yards rushing this year. I think that is a solid goal, and I think he'll get a lot more touches near the end zone as well. So I think this is a guy that put up some numbers in year 1, but I think he's going to have an even better number 2 year. So that's why I'm here at number 5. Kevo, number 4.
When we think about the top running backs in the league, there's names like Zeke Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Todd Gurley is still considered up there. But look at these numbers. 219 attempts, 1,098 yards, 107 receptions, 867 yards, 6 receiving touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns.
Christian McCaffrey.
It is Christian McCaffrey. And we just don't put him – I have him on this list as number 4 because I think he is one of the top 5 running backs in the game, and we don't talk about him enough. As he's been, other than Cam, he was the whole of the Carolina Panther offense last year, and I think he's going to be a key guy again this year. And we think about other people before Christian McCaffrey, and so that's why I have him on my underrated list. I have him as number 4.
See, I would think it would be a little bit difficult to put him on this list, but I have somebody at number 1 on my other list that I would perfectly fit that mold of where they're ranked on certain lists. So I definitely can see the reasoning for there. I like it. And, of course, Chris McCaffrey, a beast. So, Mitch, what do you got at number 4?
At number 4, I have the running back that's closest to my heart, James White, at number 4 on the underrated list. James White had the best season of his career in 2018. He elevated his game both receiving-wise and rushing-wise. He went from a career high of 171 rushing yards to 425 and 5 touchdowns, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Then receiving-wise, he went from a career high of 60 catches and 551 yards with 5 touchdowns to 87 catches, 751 yards, and 7 touchdowns. This is a guy who in PPR fantasy football actually finished in the top 6 for running backs, and he's not even a starting running back. You could argue he's the best receiving in the league, and he's definitely one of the most clutch players in the league. So James White, I don't think gets enough credit because he's very quiet and he kind of just does his job, and he's a part of the Patriots system. So nobody really gives him credit for being great, but he is great, deserves that credit.
I like it. Definitely a James White guy. He even made a video about him last year, why he should have been the MVP at some point last year. Great video there. At number 4 for me is a guy that Kev already brought up, Marlon Mack of the Indianapolis Colts. This is a guy that I really liked coming in here. He's very young. He was 22 last year and put up some pretty good numbers. 908 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, also had a receiving touchdown. And that's only in 12 games, and he only started 10. So that's pretty good production, almost 100 yards per start. He's going to get more opportunities. He also had a really good game against the Texans in the wild card round. Rushed for over 140 yards, rushed for another touchdown. This is a guy on a Colts offense that can really be a big weapon. Of course, we know with their receivers and T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron on tight end, but you throw in a third piece like Marlon Mack that can carry the load for Andrew Luck because you know he's going to sling the ball. But sometimes you got to give it off to a good running back, and I feel like Indianapolis needs that. Marlon Mack stepped up for 900 yards last year. Definitely see him going over 1,000 this year if he stays healthy. And a guy that I think is underappreciated given the talents of Andrew Luck in this Colts team. Again, a great offensive line helps him out, but he's still a really good running back and very young, just going to be 23 going into the season. So I have him here at number 4. Kevo, what you got at number 3?
Number 3 is also a New England Patriot running back, and I do think that James White is a good person to have on this list. I would have him 7th on my list, but I also think Sony Michel. I think if you look at what the New England running game does and what they all have to do in a pretty complex offensive system where they change styles pretty much depending on the opponent and what you need to know. It's not only about stats, but it's about other things as well. And you look at Michel's stats, they're not spectacular, but with New England running backs, they're not necessarily going to be, but you have to do a lot more than just run the ball and catch the ball. You need to block as well. And I don't think Sony Michel has gotten the appreciation gets the appreciation that the other guys do. So for an overall running back, Sony Michel, I think is one of the top in the league, and we don't talk much about him. So I have number 3, Sony Michel.
I think one of the things that surprised me, Kev, is the fact that he had like the best playoff run of any running back since Terrell Davis, and nobody talks about that. Like absolutely nobody talks about that.
Yeah. It's all Edelman. It's all Brady.
Yeah.
It's Belichick. But there's so much, and you know this, Mitch, because you watch closely, but the New England offense is a complex offense. It's not just one style. So knowing what you need to know in a New England offense and being only in his second year in the league. So I think that's what he's done is quite impressive.
All right, I like it. I definitely see Sony Michel as a guy that's going to come in here and make the plays. Again, like Mitch said, a really great postseason for him. A lot of great games there, and he even scored the lone touchdown in the Super Bowl. We forget about that.
Yeah.
Mitch, what do you have here at number 3?
At number 3, I have my boy, who I think's been underrated for his entire life. Coming into the NFL, he wasn't even invited to the combine. Philip Lindsay is my number 3. He made the Pro Bowl this year, despite not starting the year as the starting running back. Everybody was talking about Freeman. And you know what's crazy? Everybody is still talking about Freeman, like Freeman this, Freeman that. No, it's Philip Lindsay's backfield. He had 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground, 5.4 yards per carry, 35 catches, 241 yards, and a touchdown. This guy's electric. I think he's one of the best running backs in the open field. He's not going to overpower you, but he's very quick. And once he hits that hole, he's gone. Philip Lindsay is only 24 years old. He's going into his 2nd season. I think he will see a little bit of split time with Freeman coming up this season. But, man, this guy is too electric. He kind of reminds you of a little bit of a Chris Johnson. And I think that's what he's going to give the Broncos in the coming years.
The only reason I didn't put him on my list is because I feel like a lot of people hyped him up when the season was going on last year. He got a lot of headlines, got all the press. He definitely is a great player. I'm not mad about that. I just think he is broken that underrated status, but I do see the reason.
I think he's underrated now. I understand what you're saying during this season, but I feel like he's underrated now because nobody's talking about him now. Like, even if you like, a lot of the fantasy buzz right now is like about Royce Freeman. So
Yeah,
like,
and
I don't really hear much about Philip Lindsay. So I just think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, and that's the reason I'm cool with it. I definitely see the reasons, and I don't really get why Royce Freeman's getting this attention. I don't think he did all that much impressive things last year, but yeah, I definitely like it. Philip Lindsay is one of my favorite players, running backs in the game.
Lindsay really did take over the offense in Denver at the end of the year last year.
Yeah,
It wasn't really Royce Freeman that much.
No, I mean, he was making electric plays. He had more stellar games. He was more consistent. That's for dang sure. And when Royce Freeman was given the opportunity, it always seemed like Philip Lindsay just fill in the role a lot better. So
yeah,
why I think he was better. At number 3, a guy that Mitch already mentioned, James White. This is a guy that I really enjoyed. When you use him in the Patriots offense, he's lights out. And I feel like the Patriots offense, a little bit towards the second half of the year, just didn't utilize him as much as the first half, and I was a little bit critical about that. But if you see what he's able to do, it literally, if you go to his Pro Football Reference stats, you're not going to see rushing first. You're going to see receiving first because he's that crazy at catching the football. 87 receptions, 751 yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns. Rushing-wise, like Mitch said, more rushing yards than he's ever had in his career. He only had 94 attempts, but he had 425 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he's a dynamic guy. With the Patriots offense, I think especially in 2018, was more focused on the run game. They were able to use Sony Michel, as Kevil brought up. They were able to use him in the run game and then throw in a little bit of James White as protection. And I think James White did a pretty good job. Of course, towards the end of the year, it slowed down a little bit, but this is a guy that I think still has a lot of things to give here. He's going in here his 6th season. He's really good in the playoffs, almost lights out in the playoffs most of the time. And again, a guy that's on a Patriots team, a dangerous Patriots team that can do a lot of things for them and needs to get more attention. So that's why I have him here at number 3. But I like both guys. Both guys, I think, are definitely underrated, and I like that both of them are included on at least each of our lists here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At number 2.
Number 2, I have a guy that was drafted in the 7th round, 249th. Not a lot of people heard of this guy. He got injured in 2017, but we were introduced to him this year as part of the Seahawks package. And I'm not being a homer here, but I'm basing this also on what Pro Football Focus did. They rated him in the 20s, I believe, in their rankings, and that's Chris Carson. And that's just why I have him in number 2. It's just that people don't seem to know him. They haven't valued him as much as he is. You could argue he could be a breakout player. You can make that argument. He's a breakout player, but I just think that this guy runs very physically. I'm not comparing him to Marshawn Lynch, but he's the type of running back in a similar style. Just a really good running back behind a line that I think is improving and is a better line. But they focused on him. He stays healthy. I think he's going to have a really strong year. So Chris Carson is number 2.
Chris Carson, the boy, got a lot of hype. He made a lot of great plays last year. The flip in Carolina, a lot of great stuff there. I think he's a very solid pick. We'll be looking at that further. Mitch, what do you got at number 2? You are on mute, sir.
You're on mute.
Oh, okay, there we go. I actually agree with Kevil on something. I had to stop myself from laughing at Dilly's solid mention. Chris Carson's my number 2. I believe I put him on my top 10 most underrated players in the NFL. So Chris Carson, I believe, like, he's getting a little bit more attention, but still, as a player that had 1,100 yards, as a player that carried the football as much as he did, 247 rushes, 9 touchdowns, like that's putting trust in a running back. That's running the football. That's being a bell cow running back. But now we're all of a sudden hearing that Rashad Penny's going to be the guy, and he's going to take the football away from Chris Carson, and there's going to be more of a heavy split between the two, and that the team really wants to push towards Penny. And it's like, Really, did you watch last season? Like, this guy was efficient with the football. He carried the football a ton. He was arguably their offensive MVP. And like Kev says, he's a tough runner. I think he really imposes the style that the Seahawks want to play with. And he's only 24 again, a guy that's going into his third season, and I think has plenty left in the tank. I don't see a reason to take the carries away from him going into next season.
Well, great minds think alike, because at number 2, I have Chris Carson. I'm glad that we all had him at the exact same spot. And I think, I pretty much agree with these guys.
You know what's funny is I all think we're going to have different number ones.
Yeah,
Really?
I think we are. I think we are too.
Okay. At least we agreed on this one, though. Chris Carson's a guy that, in Seattle with the 3-headed monster we had last year, they all brought something different to the table, which is why I really like that system. And considering the running back crew that was there in 2017, which was nobody, having this trio was really, really nice to see. And Chris Carson, I think, was the biggest highlight. Like Kevil brought up, he was hurt in 2017, only started 3 games, only got to play in 4. But this year, started in 14, 1,151 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. He was really, really solid, especially the second half of the year. He really put on the gas pedal and really put on some really great performances. And I think teams were starting to see that a little bit. And like you guys are bringing up, Rashad Penny taking over. I don't really know why. It's a guy that I like, but he was a little bit of a stretch at the first-round pick when he was drafted. And now he's getting that role. I think Chris Carson did more for his team. It was just more efficient. I know Penny didn't get as many opportunities as Chris Carson here, but I think Chris Carson was able to take those opportunities and roll it. So you can't say that he was given the opportunities and didn't do anything with them. He did a great job, made some great plays, was able to run very hard, and helps the Seattle Seahawks get into the playoffs. I think he was a big contributor to that. So at number 2, we all have Chris Carson. Now, you bring up the mention of different number 1s. I want to hear it. Kev is your number 1 as I go get my charger.
Sean Alexander.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Legend.
Well, you look back at this guy's draft year, there was a lot of questions about him because of an off-field incident, and he went lower than I think his talent showed up. And he's playing in a place that no one really is paying attention to. Nobody is talking about this. If we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals as being one of the worst teams in the NFL. We have no idea who really don't know much about Zach Taylor. We question their coach. We really look at this team as a very bland team. But Joe Mixon is the 4th best rusher in the National Football League last year. 237 carries, 1,168 yards, 4.9 average, which was better than Zeke's for 60 first downs. He's a guy. He's a guy we don't pay a lot of attention to. But if the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do anything, Joe Mixon's going to be the guy that is going to contribute a lot more. And I know that there's a lot of talk about AJ Green, and we kind of want to ignore the Cincinnati Bengals. But considering where this guy has come from and what this guy has done, and comparing to other situations, similar situations here in the NFL, he has gotten it and has put his life together. He's put his priority together. I have Joe Mixon as the most underrated running back in the National Football League.
I like it. Very, very good choice at number 1, a guy that fits the mold because he's in the Bengals offense. Who likes the Bengals offense? Who likes the Bengals team? You know what I'm saying? So having that kind of player stand out, I really enjoy it. Don't even try it. I saw the raising of the hand. Not a chance. Who do you got at number 1, Mitch? I want to see. Is it different than Kevel?
Yes, it is. I have a player that, Joe Mixon, I love. Like, I think he is underrated, but he is too good for me to be underrated. I don't know if that makes sense. So, that being said, my number 1 is a player that their own team doesn't even use enough. That's how underrated he is, okay?
Okay.
If you can name him, he led the NFL in yards per attempt.
Can I take a guess? I think I know who it is.
Okay.
Is it Aaron Jones?
It is Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. Ding, 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 ding. Okay? He played 12 games last year, but in those 12 games, he only had 11 carries a game. This upcoming season, I think Aaron Jones, after having 728 yards and 8 touchdowns, in 2018. I think he's going to go over 1,000. I think he's going to go over 10 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a great season in this new Matt LaFleur offense. And he is one of the most explosive running backs in the league. 2 years in a row, 5.5 yards per attempt, led the NFL in that category this season, upped his total to 26 and 206. And I think in this offense this year, he is going to be the player that really breaks out the most at this position, in my personal opinion. And I just see this guy, another young running back that even his own team just needs to utilize more. And I think they're going to do that in 2019. And not enough people are giving the love to Aaron Jones, because I think at a certain point before the season last year, everyone was like, okay, who's the Packer running back that's going to separate themselves? Aaron Jones has truly separated himself as the number one back for Green Bay.
I definitely, I thought I was seeing that coming. A lot of people, when I was looking at these lists, like searching online, like who do people think are underrated, Aaron Jones was near the top or at the top of the list. So really? I can understand. Yeah, I definitely agree with the pick. I didn't put him on my list because I just don't know what the Packers offense is going to bring. But again, maybe, he brings something new, different to the table. And I remember, I believe it was the Patriots game, like, why are they not giving them more chances to Aaron Jones? So, I agree. I definitely like it. But at number one, I do not have a different pick. I have Kev Oles' same pick at number one. I have Joe Mixon at number one. Here's the reason, right? Joe Mixon is a great running back that I feel like, in terms of the landscape of the NFL, is just not talked about enough. You brought up with Christian McCaffrey how he's not really discussed as a top 5 running back when he should be, and I believe that is correct. I feel like Joe Mixon is a top 10 running back that doesn't get that respect. He doesn't get that attention from the media because I think he's in a really crappy market and a really crappy team. When you look at what the Bengals have done, even if you want to say that they're going to get better in 2019, you look at what they've been doing for the last 3 years, and they've either been hurt or they just really haven't been very good. But the lone, standout for me, besides A.J. Green, because A.J. Green's great, is Joe Mixon. 1,168 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns. He also got a receiving touchdown. He only started 13 games as well, so again, could have averaged a little bit more if he was healthy all the way through. A guy that I think is going to, be a lone bright spot in the offense, because I really don't see that much hype for me this year with the Bengals. But if there's a guy that I would want to see week in and week out, look for fantasy numbers, look for something that you need to be reliable for, I think Joe Mixon's going to be the guy. I know Mitch said he's just a little bit too good for this list, but I feel like he just doesn't get that attention. He doesn't get that love that I think he should be getting. So that's why I got him.
Yeah, when I look at underrated, I look at a guy that I think has ability that people don't pay attention to. So to me, Joe Mixon fits what I believe. Now, I understand if you think that he's too talented, I guess, but
I considered him for the list, but then I thought about it and I was like, well, people are going to be like, oh, everybody already thinks Joe Mixon is great. So I don't know. Maybe like as a person that pays too close attention to the NFL, I already think he's great. So I don't know what everyone else thinks. So maybe it's kind of one of those inside outside sort of things.
I feel like you just kind of have to give it to. I feel like the landscape of the whole football universe just doesn't feel the same way. I feel like we need to push that. Joe Mixon greatness, all right? So, yeah, that's our list. I
wanted to bring Aaron Jones some love.
A little diverse. I think there was a bunch of different guys, and I think all of these running backs were good. There's not one guy that I was like, no, he's overrated or he's bad. I think all of these guys were great picks. So, thank you, guys. I enjoyed those lists quite a bit. And we even agreed at number 2, so good stuff there. Let's look at our comment section, see if anybody agrees or disagrees. I know there's a lot of negativity today, and I don't want that. We want to be positive today, all right?
Also, guys, Gronk spiked the like button.
Oh,
Let's
yes.
go.
Gronk spiked the like button. Also, Gronk spiked the notification bell because you need to know when our videos are coming up. And as well, you can Gronk spike the subscribe button because we're 11 subscribers away from 13,000. Very, very excited for that. So could be happening at any second, maybe at the end of this video. Who knows? You could help us out there. We really would appreciate that. Rob X Pro has his list. By the way, a couple of guys in the chat. Hot Take Honky, Go Skittle. I will not shout out Bret Hart, but he's there. Rob X Pro
did by saying that.
No, he's there. I mentioned that he's there. I just won't be like, yeah, let's go.
Well, you just did it.
My wrestling hot take: Megan Rapone is a better heel than anyone in the WWE right now.
See, the problem is I don't know who that is.
Exactly.
The U.S. women's soccer team is a fantastic heel organization.
Alex Morgan, celebrating.
Oh my gosh!
I know Alex Morgan.
Yeah, that's basically the extent of my soccer
I
knowledge.
mispronounced Megan. It's Megan Rapine, I believe, is her last name. I mispronounced it, but she.
I appreciate that, though. Somebody's cultured in this. I like it, okay? Even though it's not my U.S. soccer team. RobX Pro has it 5, Kerryon Johnson. Thank you very much. 4, Kenyon Drake. Yeah.
I think he's underrated in the fact that he needs to be used more. I think he's in the Aaron Jones.
That's what I think, too. That's what I was...
Were you considering from the list, Kev, or what do you think?
I did think about him, yes.
Okay. 3, Adrian Peterson. I think it's because he's...
I thought about him, too.
Yeah, definitely. And 2 and 1 are guys that we had, Marlon Mack and Aaron Jones. So overall, I like the list. Good stuff. Bret Hart puts 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 as Bret Hart, of course. Hot Take Honky says, damn, we just realized how close you are to 13,000. Congrats, BLV is flying. Thank you, John. We appreciate it. We're getting there. We're making more content. And of course, shout out Hot Take Honky. They're almost at 8,000. Help them get to 8,000 as well.
The Hockey Podcast is going to have a YouTube channel as well soon.
Is it? I very much enjoy
Hockey Podcast.
Yes.
The Hodcast.
Yeah.
Is that how
the Hodcast? No, it's the Hockey Podcast.
You know what? No, nobody do that. I would appreciate
that would be terrible. Yeah. There's the Bobcast. It's terrible.
It's a very cheesy pun. I don't do it. What about Dante Moncrief? Says Busboy. I feel like maybe that's in consideration for the receivers because he's not.
He's a receiver. Yeah, that's. Yeah.
He won't be on my list. Spoiler.
He will not be on your list.
He's not on mine either.
He is not on mine either. Sorry, bro, but he's a good receiver. Not bad. I mean, he's on your team, Mitch, so there you go. Let's see what else we got here. Marlon Mack won't stay healthy and won't be a 3rd down running or a 3 down back, says Ghost. I can't predict injuries. I don't like when people try to predict injuries because it's not fair. I don't
think he's really a 3 down back, but I think he plays the same role as Sony Michel plays.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 3 or 4 3 down backs in the
net. For real.
It's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a much different style than even 10 years ago because we had a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Okay. Let's name them.
Okay. So I would.
Zeke,
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey, Barkley,
Saquon.
Mixon.
Is Kamara one? I guess.
Without
I think he is, but he has like a better backup than other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mixon.
Guys have to be 3 down running backs. Who else?
Bell.
Yeah.
David Johnson.
Let's say that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gurley.
Yeah, 7.
There's like.
I don't know if Gurley's going to be a 3 down back this year.
Well, I don't know about it anymore. I think he was.
He was last year.
Till the boy CJ.
I would say, there's about 8.
And some of those guys like Zeke have to be on there because they don't have a quality running back or a quality backup.
Like how many of these guys would be 3 down backs if they had like James White?
Yeah, like him and Joe Mixon and a couple of other guys wouldn't have to do so. Saquon.
Or you could put like McCaffrey at receiver. That would be sick.
He was a kick returner at Stanford. We'll throw him anywhere. Make touchdowns. I would be down for it. If we can put Odell at quarterback and be better than.
Oh, by the way, did you guys see that clip of Cam Newton throwing to himself?
No, I did not.
I want an offense where Cam Newton plays receiver.
Imagine
trying to cover Cam Newton.
So like he threw the football and then caught.
And then he caught it.
Like how far did he throw this football?
30 yards, probably.
Jesus.
20 yards.
I like it. You throw him anywhere. He's a freaking MVP, for God's sakes. If you're going to do something creative,
I think we're going to get to the point where there's a 2 quarterback offense.
I do too.
I think
Deshaun Watson throwing to Deshaun Watson.
Kyle Shanahan was ahead of his time. We tried to do this with Johnny Manziel. You know what I'm saying? That one. If anybody knows that preseason play, you're a G. Anyway, let's not remember most of his time in Cleveland, but I appreciate it for that. And Taylor.
Oh, let's stop talking about that guy.
That guy That guy, you don't want to talk about Kyle Shanahan? I know who you mean, but who else?
Ghost jersey in your closet right now.
Oh, I've got 5 T-shirts and jerseys. Anyways, Philip Lindsay's overrated? What? What do you mean? Did you watch him last year? Absolutely not true.
Definitely a Raiders fan.
Busboy says, who is a better career? Who will have a better career, Devin Bush or Devin White? This is an interesting question. This is like
I'll say Devin White.
You'll say Devin White. I'm more. This is tough. What, Kev? You got an answer?
Probably White, because we don't know. We'll see. I'm unsure, but probably White. I'm 51-49 White.
51-49. I like both of them. I'm going to go with White, but I mean it's just barely. I like what both situations are in right now. But Busboy says Bush, and then Ghost Skittle says White. Let's see. Which team is better this year, Steelers or Ravens?
You know my answer.
His answer's Ravens. No, I'm kidding. Steelers. I will say Steelers. Not 100% sold on them, but I think they're better than the Ravens. Kev,
I'll say the Steelers, because the Ravens made the playoffs and the Steelers didn't. So if I have the Steelers making the playoffs and the Ravens a playoff contender,
I think they just mean who's going to be the better team, Kev, not like who's going to be better than.
When we go to predictions, I'm leaning right now towards the Steelers, actually, as I think about it a little bit more. But we'll see.
I'm conflicted with what the Steelers bring this year. To me, I know Mitch is sold on them. I'm not 100% sold, but I think they're better than the Ravens. So if we're gonna go on that one question, let's see. Carson is very underrated, says Ghost. Anthony Wright has his top 5 list. I like it. Number 5, Adrian Peterson. We talked about that. Number 4, Tevin Coleman. That's an interesting number 4. I don't agree. I can understand because he's been a number 2 for a long time, but now he's in a new system. I don't really know.
I don't think he was underrated as an Atlanta Falcon, but I think he'll be underrated as a 49er.
Okay, because I'm assuming you think Jared McKinnon's going to just take over.
I think all 3 of those guys are good. And I'm really intrigued to see what they do with them. Like, to see – because all 3 of them can do the same thing. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who takes the lead, and I think it will be Coleman.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting if he's underrated in this department then. What do you think, Kev? Underrated? Overrated?
Rated. I don't think he's underrated, but I don't think he's overrated, and he's in a new offense, so it's going to be tough to see.
So perfectly rated. I like it. That's where
perfectly rated.
Number 3, Melvin Gordon. That's an interesting one there.
I would actually put him on an overrated list.
Ooh,
I would say he is rated.
I would agree he is rated. I don't know about overrated. I could see the argument, but
I think he was incredible when he played last year. He was like arguably the best running back in the league when he was like at his peak last year. He was awesome.
Yeah, the only thing that took him down was injuries. That was the only concern there. 2, Joe Mixon, and number 1, Devontae Freeman.
He is getting a lot more hate than I thought.
Yeah, he's been getting a lot more dislikes I don't
know why.
I feel like it's because the Falcons are like, okay, we're going to be centered around this guy. Tevin Coleman's not our number 1. He's gone. And Freeman was hurt for most of the years. So, like, you know,
I think Freeman's good, but I don't think he's great.
I think he's overrated, but I don't think he's like the most overrated. I think there are a couple of other guys there, but I don't know about underrated personally.
I have him rated.
You have him rated, fellow. Fair enough. Brett Hart asked us, what are you guys going to do when Google Hangouts goes away August 1st? We're going to have to figure out something. We got live streams still coming. We aren't leaving those away. We still got to do the podcast, which might be taped, but we'll figure that out. And we got other stuff, so don't you worry. We will get that done.
We are completely going off the grid.
No. Oh, just like the New York Giants. No, I'm just kidding. Ghost Skittles says Melvin's not underrated. Busboy says James Conner is the most underrated. Oh, Mitch's boy there.
I'm going to tell you right now, the number one running back in Pittsburgh this year will be Jalen Samuels. Not
Yeah, wow, come on now.
Yep.
Really?
Come on now. Jalen Samuels is a fine secondary running back, but like number one?
I think he'll take over as the number one running back in Pittsburgh. I'm not saying he's the best running back in the league. But
No. I know you didn't say that, but still.
I'll say this. This is why James Conner is not underrated. Any running back could be good with the Steelers. I'll just say that. Any running back.
Any.
But you look at Connor's numbers, he kind of slowed down in the second half of last year.
Oh, absolutely. That's used to like week 8 and then just
the Steelers and the Chiefs. Any running back would be good.
Although they're saying in Kansas City that Damian Williams is better than Kareem Hunt.
I like Damian Williams. I think he's a guy that could be.
I think Damian Williams is good. I think Kareem Hunt is slightly overrated, but Kareem Hunt's good too. But Hunt's better than Williams.
DJ says, "Hi guys, I'm new to your channel, and this is the first live stream of yours. Let's see how things go. I'll recommend you the other channels I belong to." Well, thank you. We appreciate that. We like a new.
I hope you're enjoying.
Yes, indeed. I hope you are enjoying. Let's see if we got any others. Nick Chubb is better than James Conner. I would agree. Let's see if we got anything else here. The Cincinnati Bengals are not a crappy team, as this panel and the rest of the NFL will find out in 2019.
I like their offense.
I am not sold until you have Andy Dalton not as a quarterback for this team. Give me somebody.
I'm not saying that they're going to finish last in their division.
Yeah, I look.
Maybe third.
Maybe. Ooh.
What?
Are you saying the Ravens are going to be third or fourth place? Is that what I'm hearing? Could be. Maybe.
You can't, the problem with the Bengals is I don't know much about Zach Taylor. Like I don't know about how much about his head coach. So
he's an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
Or he could be. Who's that guy? Vance Joseph.
Vance
Joseph.
Oh, terrible. My thing is like I agree with these guys. The last 3 years have told me that if I see a drastic change, I'm not going to rely on them. I want to see them. I can change my opinions on teams after I see them play, but going into this year, I just don't see it.
There's a difference between predicting something and liking. Mm-hmm. I like the Bengals. Like I want them to be good, but I can't predict that.
No.
I will say my concern about the Bengals isn't offensively; it's defensively.
Yeah. Of course. You do realize that the Bengals had a winning record before Dalton and AJ Green got hurt. Well, their defense was going to hold up the whole time. They were still giving up points like crazy before the 6 games. So you watch the Falcons game where they scratched out a victory, but then they just gave up a whole bunch of points, and then the Chiefs massacre was on its way. Let's see, what else do we have here? We got anything else? What about Corey Clement from the Eagles? Well, if we were talking 2017, I would have put him on this list, but did he do anything last year?
He's stuck in a cluster of
other running backs.
And I will say in 2018, he had the opportunity to be that back, and he didn't.
He didn't do it.
So
there was the first 3 weeks.
They had no one. They had Adams.
Yeah, Jamal Adams. Because Jay Ajayi got hurt early. And then they're like, oh, we're scrambling for running back department. And that's why we wanted them to get running backs, and they did a great job in the draft. So they got 2 better running backs right now. Well, the New Jersey Mish, says John.
Thanks, bro.
He also asked, Dilly, Cowboys going far this year? Oh, hell yeah, you are. No, I'm kidding. The thing is that I always love what the Cowboys bring every year. I think they're different. I think this team is really stacked. I think they're no doubt about a top 10 team right now. The question is the coaching. I have always had this problem. I've had this problem for years now. Is the coaching going to be able to make the right calls, the right offensive scheme? Can they get it done? I'm not sold on that. We got the talent. We got to make the execution. And plus, they stress me out every single week. It is not like a Patriots system where I'm coasting for 16, 17 weeks until the playoffs start. It is stressful, heartbeats pumping way too many times than it should be. So if there's one thing I would like is a little bit more farther games, 14-point wins. Thank you very much. At least 1 or 2, because it would take my weeks away. It would be very helpful for me. Predator says, at work, we'll watch later. I wish Kevel. Kevel, he is Father Hawk. So if you're in his alliance, he'll be there with you, I guess. Let's see. There's a debate about Zeke versus Gurley. Who would you have? Well, you know how I feel about that.
Starts with a Z.
It definitely starts with an E. It does not have a G in it, I tell you what. Ferocious Film says, sup, Bottom Line View. Woke up late. Sorry I missed your stream, but he did like the offensive video this morning that Mitch brought up.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yes, we're at ranked every single offense in League 1 to 32. Check that out. Good stuff.
It did go a lot longer than I expected, but I put the timestamps in there for you guys, so go check it out.
Hey, one of those things that we you've been asking for. You guys have been asking for, so I like that. And with that, that's comments for the moment. That's where we're going to stop there with the comments, and we're going to get into our second list, our second top 5 underrated list. We're going to talk about top 5 underrated wide receivers. I think this one's going to be a little bit different because when you go with running backs, there's not an extensive amount of people you can go on there. There's 40 guys that are talented in the starting lineup or second guy. With receivers, I mean, you got tons of people you can go off this list. So if I see anybody's same person on here, I would kind of be surprised. Gonna be honest. I feel like it's gonna be wide.
I think there's gonna be at least one.
At least one. Okay. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and start off with Mitch, then I'll go myself, and then we'll finish off with Kev this time.
Okay, this is my surprise pick. At number 5, I'm going to give the Buffalo Bills some more love here.
What?
All right.
Okay.
Robert Foster is my number 5 underrated wide receiver. Robert Foster, who probably nobody in this chat even knew who he was until week 8 or something like that. But he started 3 games. He played 13 last season for the Bills and ended up with 27 catches for 541 yards and 3 touchdowns. 20 yards per reception. He had some games in there where he just went off with deep touchdowns from Josh Allen. I think he's a perfect complement in terms of his speed and his deep ball ability with Josh Allen. I do believe that he is going to be one of their top receivers next year. I think, obviously they brought in John Brown and Cole Beasley. I think Beasley will have an important role in the slot, but I could see Foster supplanting and replacing Zay Jones and maybe even John Brown as that number 1 outside target because he was just so effective down the field for that offense last year, and his speed has to make you worry as a defense. So he's a young player that I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops his chemistry with the young quarterback, Josh Allen.
I like that. That's an outside of the box pick. I like it. Coach Skittle says Robert Foster is a god, and that's a Buffalo Bill, you know what I'm saying? So I like it. Good stuff there at number 5. Number 5 for me is a little bit of an oddball as well. I wanted to go with somebody that people just don't talk about, but I think had a really good season. I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel at number 5. I feel like a lot of people are like, huh? I don't know. Are you sure about that? But let me explain.
I like this pick.
Thank you. Let me explain to everybody out there why I put him here at number 5. 39 receptions, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns. He also had 8 rushes and 2 touchdowns. The reason that I think he is here at number 5 is because the offensive scheme, Norv Turner, when they were creating this offensive system last year, they wanted to implement guys and use them differently and use them really well. And you could see in those first couple of games when Cam was fully healthy, the offense was extremely creative. They were able to get guys open and let them, use all of their talent. DJ Moore was getting opportunities. Funchess was getting opportunities, and now he's gone. But Curtis Samuel, who's very young, he was 22 last year, was able to get his spotlight, and he was able to execute for the most part. Didn't get a whole lot of targets. He only had 65 targets on the year, but I think going into year 3 and with no Devin Funchess, he's going to step into that number 3 role for the Carolina Panthers, and I think he's going to get more of an opportunity. This is a guy that can be a touchdown guy, 7 touchdowns last year with the more opportunities. I really like what he can bring here, and he's a definition of a guy that isn't being talked about that's going to get more opportunities this year. I like that a lot. So, number 5, Curtis Samuel.
Right. I have some breaking news.
Oh, breaking news.
Before we begin, there's been a lot of insiders that have been talking about Kawhi. Chris Carter has done it. Chris Broussard has done it. A bunch of them. But the Iron Sheik has some inside information about Kawhi. And this is what he said. He has just tweeted this. Kawhi told me everyone is a jabroni. So that is what the Iron Sheik has to say about that.
Yes. What it do, baby. I got to appreciate the Iron Sheik coming in here with this breaking news. I enjoyed that.
Yes.
You got number 5.
So I almost have a tie for my number 5. I am between two players, and I will just tell you who I am going to pick. I am between Cooper Kupp and Tyler Boyd. Now, Cooper Kupp is a guy that I think if he was playing with the Rams in the Super Bowl, I think they would have had a better chance to win the Super Bowl, because I just think he does a lot of things that their other receivers just don't do. But I also think that my problem is I think people are starting to know Cooper Kupp, and I think that people are starting to see the value of Cooper Kupp. So I have chosen Tyler Boyd because, as we said, I do think that the Cincinnati offense is a better offense than people think, and it's more than Andy Dalton, AJ Green. You look at even Tyler Eifert had a pretty good year before he got hurt last year, and Tyler Boyd is a good option for AJ Green. So I kind of a little bit stuck within the boards here, but I have Tyler Boyd as the number 5. I think he's a really good number 2 option on a team that may score a little bit more points, and that's going to be the key if Zach Taylor is able to use anybody. I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd as number 5, with honorable mention to Cooper Kupp as 5.5.
5.5 and 5. There you go. I like both guys. I didn't have Tyler Boyd on my list, but definitely a guy that I think should be.
So he has Cooper Kupp on the list.
You never know.
I got you there.
You got me there. But I like those guys. I think Tyler Boyd in the Cincinnati offense is another guy you look forward to. Definitely agree with that. Mitch, what do you got at number 4?
At number 4, so one of the teams that I've always kind of said has underrated receivers is the Jaguars, because they have a lot of them, and they've had a really bad quarterback. And sometimes you see these receivers make fantastic plays. My number 4 is D.D. Westbrook of the Jacksonville Jaguars. D.D. Westbrook last season had 66 catches, 717 yards, and 5 touchdowns, and stood out as the number 1 receiver for the Jaguars. I believe that this season with Nick Foles, he's going to get closer to 1,000 yards. I think he could be one of the breakout receivers this season. He has a ton of talent. He has great speed, good. I really like his swag, his confidence about him at this position. And I think D.D. Westbrook is going to be one of those young receivers this season that just takes a big step forward with an improvement on the offensive line and at the quarterback position.
D.D. said in his first game he was going to get 250 receiving yards. I like a guy that has that charisma about them. He wants to push it out there. And with no Blake Bortles, I think this is an easier job. So I
also think, just looking at the numbers that I said, 66, 717, and 5 touchdowns. That's better than people probably thought he did.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think that. So
yeah,
there. I like it there at number 4. And he's a guy that I'm looking forward to watching this year as well. Number 4, I think this is probably a bigger name than people were expecting, especially at the number 4 position. But I want to keep it real because I feel like people are still not looking at him as maybe even a tier 3 guy. And that's interesting enough for me. It's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. When you look at what he was able to bring for the Seahawks last year, with Doug Baldwin being hurt and other guys having to put in the offensive production, I think he did really well. You look at his stats, 57 catches, 965 yards, and 10 touchdowns. If you look at his 3 seasons before, he had 6 in his rookie year, 1 the next year, 2 the year before that, and 10 this year. So even if you're like, Tyler Lockett's underrated, he went from a big progression of 1 or 2 touchdowns a year to 10 last year. That's pretty good. He had 13 rushes this year, which I think is interesting. They were giving him more of an opportunity to do that with little outs and stuff like that. And of course, the biggest stat of them all is that he had a perfect passer rating with Russell Wilson. They were perfect targets together. They were working in great chemistry. And now with Doug Baldwin being retired, he's going to have to take that number 1 spot and be the guy that they see as a huge deep threat where Russell Wilson can evade from the pocket and boom, you find Tyler Lockett 40 yards down the field. It's an amazing play. Guys like him aren't on every team. They're not on every team with that chemistry with Russell Wilson. Those guys just really work hand in hand. So I think a guy like Tyler Lockett, while might be appreciated by some, isn't put into the respect that I think he should be getting, and maybe that tier 3 even a tier 2 category. And I think he has done a really good job, especially last year, and taking the mold this year. So that's why I have him here at number 4. Kevo, what do you got at number 4?
Well, spoiler alert, I actually do not have Tyler Lockett on my list. I understand the perfect that perfect number is an interesting number that everyone brings up, but I saw a stat, and I can't remember where I saw it, but against elite corners, he wasn't as strong as people were making him out to be. That if you actually dug into the numbers a little bit further into Tyler Lockett, it's not as great as people are making that out to be. So I can't remember where I saw
I will say this about Tyler Lockett to back up Kev. Like I initially had him on my list and I took him off because 1, he plays with Russell Wilson and he's his number 1 receiver. And number 2, he's so underrated at this point, he's overrated,
That's a vicious cycle.
it's kind of like
and he's not overrated.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say he's overrated, but I'm trying to say like he's properly rated now because so many people have brought up the fact he's underrated.
Yeah, that's kind of what
fair. All right.
Yeah.
To each his own. I still think it's a solid pick, but
it's for sure. I'm not gonna. I'm just giving my reason. My number 4 pick is a guy that I believe, if you look at the second half of the year, their own team misused them. They focused so much on one other guy that almost too much on one other guy that you could argue that that number 1 receiver became one of the more overrated receivers in the second half of the year, especially when you watched him play against New England, and especially if you watch him play against Seattle, and that's Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is most well known for that catch against the Minneapolis Miracle against the New Orleans Saints, but they were almost using Adam Thielen way too much that they almost forgot that Stephon Diggs was on the field. And if you used Diggs a little bit more than they did, probably the Vikings would have been in a better situation. So it's funny because I think if you look at receivers, I would argue that Adam Thielen might be one of the more overrated receivers in the National Football League, and even by their own team. And I think that if the Minnesota Vikings are going to be better this year, they're going to have to use more Stephon Diggs this year. So I have him as number 4, Stephon Diggs.
I will agree that they will need to use Stephon Diggs 100% more than they have. My thing is that every list that I usually see, like I've seen like ESPN like power rankings, and for some reason these two guys are like at the same, like they're like 1 or 2 spots in the same level. So I think it's interesting. I do like Stephon Diggs. I think Thielen is really, really good. He's one of the best. I know he slowed down a little bit, especially that Patriots game, but I still think he's really well. Stephon Diggs, great choice.
Name an elite receiver that played well against the Patriots.
Can we say Tyreek Hill for a half? Can we, one, we'll go with that. That's all I can say. What do you got at number 3, Mitch?
At number 3, I actually got to check. I forgot. One sec.
You had it right. You had it right.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Kevil already brought him up, but he wasn't on his list. Cooper Kupp. Okay. This is the reason why Cooper Kupp is underrated. Cooper Kupp is underrated because he was a player that everybody, including myself, thought he was a product of a offense or a system that once you removed him from the offense or the system in LA and he was no longer a part of the offense, you then saw how much of an impact he had on the offense by Jared Goff and the rest of the offense suffering. So that being said, Cooper Kupp was more important than we initially realized over the course of that season, including in that Super Bowl and in the playoffs. We're like, wow, Cooper Kupp really is that good. He really is a great player. So that being said, I think Cooper Kupp is one of the best slot receivers in the game. and actually a really good red zone weapon that I think that's where he was really missed a lot for Jared Goff. So I think he is extremely underrated. And I would say, everybody gives attention to Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods, but Cooper Kupp deserves just as much attention as those guys do.
Well, as they say, great minds think alike, because at number 3, we have Cooper Kupp. I really appreciate the fact that we had this one the exact same ranking as well. I agree with Mitch. I mean, you looked at what the offense was able to do without him, and it staggered, especially, the receiving game. They got a lot of really good receivers that I do really like, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, etc. But when you looked at what Cooper Kupp was able to bring to the table in the first half of the season, it really helped as a whole. And I said this, I believe, in the Super Bowl 53 recap, that I think that Cooper Kupp was a security blanket for Jared Goff. You had a guy that you could go to in third down situations especially, and if you needed to, you could have this kind of young guy, he's 25 years old, and fill in a position that I don't think Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks could quite do. Of course, Brandon Cooks is the guy known for his offensive or getting pass interference calls, deep pass interference calls. Love it, 100%. I still think he's a really good receiver. And Robert Woods, I think, is also a contender for this underrated list. But when you look at what Cooper Kupp was able to provide and then what the team did without him, I just think it really showed that they needed his production more than they didn't. So I have him here number 3. When you need a guy like that, he's underrated for sure. Kev, what do you have number 3?
Number 3 is a guy that's playing in a lost land of pirates. But a man is come in that may know how to use him because he had a legend that he had in his system that he did treat, like, as much as I dislike this man, he does know how to treat a legend. And he also has
very good fashion when it comes to hats.
And he has incredible hats. Yes, he does. I will give him that. But Mike Evans is number 3 on my list. 86 catches, 1,524 yards, 69 first downs.
Wasn't he like top 3 in receiving yards last year?
Yes, he was. And we just going to be in. I know that you're like, well, wait a minute, he is top 3, but we talk about D-Hop, we talk about Odell, we talk about a bunch of other guys before we talk about Mike Evans because he lives in a land of pirates and nobody really cares about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But if he was in a bigger market, I think a lot more people would appreciate and love Mike Evans. So that's why I have Mike Evans as number 3.
All right. Mike Evans is an interesting character. I like what he brings to the table. As a guy that watched A&M in the Manziel days, he was the bright spot. He was the guy. He was the
guy who absolutely made Johnny Manziel.
Let's not talk about that. He was the guy that put the pieces together, really worked well, and this Tampa Bay system is killing him because it's Tampa Bay. But we'll see what Bruce Arians does here. I think it's a really good number 3. A really good number 3. Number 2, Mitch, what do you got?
I have a man that's stuck in the land of pirates, and he can't escape it. It is not Mike Evans.
Oh.
It is a guy, the reason why Deshaun Jackson is gone, the reason why Adam Humphries is gone, Chris Godwin is my number 2. Chris Godwin last season, very quietly, had 59 receptions for 842 yards and 7 touchdowns. And that was in a rotation of 4 very talented receivers. Like, you could argue in 2018, the Bucs had the best receiving core in the league. Evans, Humphries, Deshaun, and Godwin. Now it's just Evans, who I think's a top 7 receiver. Like, Kev was giving him a ton of credit there. And then Godwin, who I think is going to be a very good number 2. And now he's just going to elevate his game because he's going to have more attention in the offense. There's going to be more plays drawn up for him. There's going to be more receptions and just targets in general. I think you could see his numbers elevate towards 1,000 yards. He's a good downfield target. I think he's going to fit this Bruce Arians system very well because of his speed. And I think, Jameis is a quarterback that, as much as everybody wants to hate on him, he'll tuck it up there and he'll let you get a chance for it. So Godwin is going to explode this year, and I think he is one of the more underrated guys because of what he did last year.
I really did pay for the fact that I just don't like Jameis Winston because that burned my ears. But yeah, Chris Godwin, I like it. Land of the Pirates, of course, who doesn't like a little bit of that. It will be an interesting pick to see what he does this year without Humphreys and those guys, etc. Number 2 for me, I don't want to be called a homer for this because I feel like he was underrated, and I feel like if you look at where he's ranked right now, he's ranked outside of the top 10 receivers. I think you got to put him in the number 10. It's Amari Cooper here at number 2. I know people are going to.
What?
Yeah, I got to put him here at number 2. I feel. Let me explain. All right.
How is he underrated?
He is underrated because what he was able to bring last year, okay? We all made fun of the fact that he was being traded for a first-round pick, right? Oh, that's ludicrous, insane. How could they possibly do such a thing? So everybody was making a mockery of this decision. Oakland got a first-round pick, which I believe was Jonathan Abram, correct? Was that Jonathan Abram or was that Josh Jacobs? It's one of those 2 picks. Regardless, they got that. Was it Jacobs? Okay, so they got their running back. We got our receiver. People were making fun of the fact that we gave up this pick. And then he lit up the world. He was having great games every single second. It was boom this, boom that, great production. I think what makes him underrated, though, is because the Cowboys and the stigma around him is that Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback. And whatever it is, we're always going to focus on what Zeke Elliott does. It's always a Zeke Elliott show. If you can't run around Zeke Elliott, you're not going to be able to do well. But I think Amari Cooper stepped into the number 1 role really, really well and proved to the world that he can be a number 1 receiver. I had many doubts as he was getting traded. I was one of those people that had many doubts about what his tenure was going to be in Dallas. So I was really hoping for something good, and I got almost more than I was expecting. He was fantastic. I just don't think people put what his season was there into the next realm because I think they've got him like 15 or something like that. I think he is in that top 10 discussion. I think like at the bottom of the top 10. I think he should be there, and I don't think people give him credit because of that and the fact that he's in Dallas because everybody loves to hate on Dallas. So I have him here at number 2. Kev, what do you have at number 2?
Number 2. I'm kind of looking at this in a big picture, and I kind of when I looked at this, like, there's going to be a bit of a legacy factor. My spoiler alert. There's a legacy factor in why I'm picking these 2 number 2 on my top 2. So just kind of look at this in a bigger picture. Again, who do we talk about? Who do we spend most of our time talking about in our off seasons here when we're talking about receivers, best receivers? We spent a lot of time talking about Antonio Brown because he was traded from the Pittsburgh to the Raiders. We talked about OBJ. We talk about a little bit more about D-Hop. Tyreek Hill is getting messages. Juju Smith-Schuster with his bicycle getting message.
Yes,
but
the bicycle.
The bike, but the man, the best receiver in the game still is. I've never said that he was not the best receiver in the game, but it's Julio Jones. 113 catches, 1,677 yards. This guy is Calvin Johnson. Hey, I know he's top 7, but if you look at compare him to where we look at everybody else.
How is he underrated?
He is underrated. I feel he's underrated.
I think if you took a poll and asked people who's the best receiver in the league, most people would answer Julio Jones. Not everybody.
I don't know about that. I feel like he'd be a little bit more split. I don't know if I
think it would be more split than you think it would be too. Because they look at the 8 touchdowns and he just doesn't have that flash that everyone else has. I don't think we pay enough attention to Julio Jones. So in terms of a legacy, that's why I have number 2, Julio Jones.
I see the argument here, and I'm not even going to be mad about it because I have somebody at number 1 that I feel is near the same boat. It's interesting. I feel like maybe because of health, the injury concerns. He's had a little bit of injuries the last couple of years. And I would agree that I don't think everybody would, I'm not saying even everybody, but I don't even think the majority would pick him at number 1. I feel like there would be other with DeAndre Hopkins or Aiden.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be.
I totally disagree. I'm actually going to take a poll on our.
Let's run this poll. Put it in the community. Not this chat, but put it in the community. I want to know what people think.
I would love to know that because I don't even think Atlanta used him properly with Sarkisian, the nose
They did
picker,
not.
did not use this guy properly. So
He led the league in receiving like 3 of the last 4 years.
yeah, and he probably realistically he could be still miles ahead if he was with the right offensive coordinator.
He is now, I think.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he definitely is now. All right. Again, let's see what we have at number 1. I think we'll have much different number 1s. What do you got, Mitch, here?
At number 1, I have a player that I always feel is a little bit disrespected. He's a player that I always wanted to play for the Patriots. He was having an absolutely phenomenal year last year and got injured, and now has a long road to come back and probably won't play much this year. But I think he's an outstanding receiver for his whole career. Emmanuel Sanders of the Denver Broncos,
Ooh,
my number
okay.
1. Because I think last year Emmanuel Sanders showed what he had left in the tank at 31 years old. I think he showed that he was a borderline like elite receiver last year, despite having Case Keenum and a terrible offense and not a very creative offense. But every game you turned on of the Broncos, Emmanuel Sanders just gets open. This guy's uncoverable. Like it's pretty crazy how good of a route runner he is. In 12 games last year, he had 71 catches, 868 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And now he might decline due to his injury, so I'm not really projecting anything because he had a torn Achilles. But I'm just saying, at this point last year, like I remember even Dylan saying that he might not be the best receiver on his own team. So that being said, you know, Emmanuel Sanders pretty underrated, a guy that's had multiple 1,000-yard seasons, and a player that I think is a lot closer to like an Antonio Brown in terms of the way that he plays than maybe you would think. So Emmanuel Sanders is my number 1.
I did say this comment, and I still, we'll see. I think it is an interesting number 1. This is an underrated list. This is not the best receivers on your team list, so I'm not mad about it. He was a good pick. Number 1, the man from the land of the Pirates, Mike Evans is on my list at number 1. The reason I say this is for some of the same reasons Kev has it here. When we bring up the best receivers in the game, we're thinking about names like AB. We're thinking about D-Hop. We're thinking about Odell. We're thinking about Julio. Mike Evans has put up the stats to prove that he should be in this conversation, and yet he's not getting the hype because Tampa Bay has had a revolving door of crappy quarterback play. Look at his first 5 seasons. Let's look at the receiving yards for each 5 seasons. Year, 1,051 yards. Year 2, 1,206 yards. Year 3, 1,321 yards.
I don't know if he's underrated, guys.
Let me explain. Year 4, 1,001 yards. Last year, 1,524 yards. And yet he can't even be placed in the top 10 of any receiver list.
What are you talking about?
I have seen people excluded, multiple lists excluded from.
What lists are you looking at?
I've seen NFL.com, ESPN.
Really? Show me these lists. Send me these lists.
Okay, I'll send them to you. There's been multiple lists that have been out here not putting respect on him because he's in Tampa Bay, because he's in this offense that is there. And now Bruce Arians is going to come in here and put out, to the world that this guy should be a top-tier talent. I think he's in the same realm as Michael Thomas. He should be in that same conversation. He's better, as Mitch says. There's great things about him that I think a lot of people aren't talking about. Maybe it's the fact that he didn't have double-digit touchdowns. Everybody's going to harp on about that. But he's got great production, and I feel like people need to put the respect on his name. I won't put it up there with like Julio because I feel like he's the number 1 receiver or number 2 receiver in the game when he's 100% healthy. But Mike Evans, he's not getting that credit for what he should have, and that's why I'm your number 1.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so for my list, as I said, I went more legacy. And because I think there's a number of different ways that you could look at this, but I kind of went big picture. And I think with a guy like Julio Jones, I think there's no brainer he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's going to have a Calvin Johnson type of career. And he's probably going to retire a little earlier than people think. But I'm thinking big picture here. This guy, I'm going to share his playoff numbers. 26 catches last playoffs, 388 yards in the postseason. 2015, this man had 17 catches for 153 yards in the postseason. We focus on the regular season a lot, but the fact of the matter is the objective of this game, is it not to win Super Bowls? And is it not, you can look at all the numbers of all of these other people, but the most reliable receiver right now, in my mind, is Julian Edelman. And Julian Edelman, in terms of the big picture, is, because he doesn't have the regular season numbers, is not considered a top flight receiver in this game. But if you look at his playoff numbers, and this is the objective here, it is to win the Super Bowl. Julian Edelman gets it done. And when Julian Edelman is on top of his game, the Patriots win the Super Bowl. You look at the numbers and you look at the championships. If he's in the top 7 or so in receiving, the Patriots can win the championship. In terms of a legacy pick, in terms of what this guy has done, big picture, the most underrated receiver probably of all time, maybe, hot take, is Julian Edelman. I think it's hard to pick anybody else on this list other than Julian Edelman.
I think he's rated now, though. I think after this season, people finally started to give him respect.
I don't know. I hope so. But
he had a great documentary. I hope you guys watched it.
Well, he's done children's books. He's done a lot of really great things, but I think it's hard not to get past what the value is of Julian Edelman.
Okay, I guess he is underrated, because Jeremy Hansman just said he's an enhanced version of Cole Beasley. So I guess
Stop.
Oh my!
Did you watch the playoffs? Come on.
He actually has the second most catches ever in the playoffs.
But do we put him in a Jerry Rice category? Do we
No.
Obviously, because I'm not saying he is as good as Jerry Rice as a receiver, but what this guy has done, I don't think has been fully appreciated. So
absolutely.
I think overall, big picture, that's why I went with Julian Edelman.
He also has the second most receiving yards in playoff history as well.
The number one will never be topped, but I mean, the guy Edelman's crazy. What he's done in the playoffs, especially for a guy that nobody talks about in the regular season. I mean, or that a lot of people don't talk about. You need that respect. That, of course, Dirk Kent with this doesn't deserve respect. That's some shit there, but yeah, I agree with it. I like it. I enjoy that. So that's our list for the top 5 underrated receivers. Of course, if you're watching it solo, comment, subscribe to the channel. Okay, for the last bit, I think we'll look at comments. If you guys have any questions, I think Q&A is in order. If you have any questions, anything, it could be literally not any question. It could be about anything though. So if you guys want to ask these questions, let us know, and I'll read some here as well. I'll read some comments that we had during our receiver video. Where does Juju rank among wide receivers? Says Kevin.
I think he's slightly out of the top 10.
Yeah,
I think he's a borderline top 10, but I would say at the 12th at this point in time. But we'll have to see it, because this is his first year as a number 1 receiver. He has to prove a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. I believe that's great, because it's spelled Bill. I like that. His top 5 wide receivers underrated category.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Golladay. I like that. That's an underrated pick, but his injury. He's been injured a lot,
man.
Number 4.
Good.
Think he's good?
I don't think he's underrated though. I don't know.
So you think he's rated?
Yeah, I think where people think he is a borderline number 1, number 2, and I think that's what he is. I don't think he's phenomenal or anything.
No, I think he gets the job done. I think he's made good plays over the years. It's just he's been inconsistent, a little too inconsistent for me, my personal one. Number 4, Will Fuller, and when he's
on the field, he's underrated. I agree.
Yeah, it's hard if he's not on the field for me to think about him.
And that's why I didn't put him on this list. That's the one guy I was the injuries are concerning, because when he's on the field, he makes that Texans offense so much better. Number 3, Robert Woods, a guy that I almost put on my list, so I can agree with that. Number 2, Corey Davis. How do we feel about Corey Davis there?
I don't like him on that list.
I don't like him on the list either.
He's too inconsistent. Corey Davis can be very good in certain games and can also be really bad in others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And number 1, Robert Foster. Of course, who does?
Yeah, buddy.
Robert Foster. Oh gosh. Jeremy says F Godwin. Jesus, he is not a fan of Godwin whatsoever. Anthony Wright with his top 5. Let's go with here. He had our 5 running backs category. Let's go with the receivers. Number 5, Robert Woods. Okay. Number 4, absolutely will not agree with this. Paul Richardson. No. His contract says he can't be underrated, and he didn't do anything last year. I know he was hurt, but God Almighty, he's not even. He was.
I'll put Sammy Watkins on that list too.
He wasn't even that great of a receiver in Seattle. I'm sorry. Number 3, Nelson Aguilar. A fair enough pick.
I don't hate it. I
think it's fine on its own list. Number 2, Tyler Boyd. Pretty good. I like that. Kevo even had him on his list. Number 1, Mohamed Sanu, which I think is an selection.
He's rated. He's a number 2 receiver.
66 receptions, 838 yards, 4 touchdowns.
He'll never be a number 1.
No.
Ever.
Is he? But he's an underrated quarterback. Let's just put that
underrated quarterback for sure.
Yeah, it's fair though. I like it for the most part. I will never agree with.
We should do a list one day of best quarterbacks who don't play quarterback. I think that would be a great list.
All right. So Odell, number 1, no doubt about it. I would like that actually. And the punter for the Rams, it's got to be on that list.
Oh, Hecker, yeah.
He's on the list. Ghost Kill says Hopkins and Michael Thomas are better than Julio. Thoughts?
Not even close.
Michael Thomas is not. Hopkins is debatable, but I still think Julio's better. Athletically, 100%. Kev?
No, Julio's better than Hopkins. But Ben, you look at the stats of Thomas. He catches everything that's thrown to him. But you also watch that game against the NFC Championship. Where was he?
And the game against the Dallas Cowboys, where he was running his mouth. I agree. Yeah, he wasn't there. He didn't show up in certain moments. They're in big games. That's just all I got to say. I think Michael Thomas' stock went down for me personally this year, or in this past season. I think it went down for Kev as well. Jeremy says, Kev was right. Nobody talks about Julio, which I don't know about nobody, but I mean, in certain conversations, maybe.
I think that's crazy. I think to say the number 1 receiver in the league is underrated is interesting.
Anthony Wright, which Mitch commented to, says no. The Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, I go 100%. Just watch this.
You're making this video. I see. Well, he says that Julio, Sanu, Ridley. I
agree. This season, okay. I said last season. Okay, so you went over the stats. Let me go over these stats real quick.
Go on.
Let me just get them. So give me a minute here. Okay, so let's start off with Mike Evans. Okay, 86 catches, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, 59, 842, 7. Deshaun 41-774 and 4 touchdowns, and then Adam Humphries 76 catches, 816 yards, 5 touchdowns. That is 4 receivers over 700 yards.
Yeah, it's having the 4 really great pieces together. That's what puts them over the top. I'm not saying Atlantis was bad by any stretch of the imagination. They had a really good receiving core, but
yeah, I was just saying the most productive receiving core of 2018 was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Because you're not just putting one guy, in a receiving core. That's what makes this so valuable. It's about having multiple guys there and having 4 guys with over 700 yards. Some of those guys had 7 or 8 touchdowns, you said. Pretty good production, I would say. Again, Julio Jones, 113 receptions, 677 yards. That's great. And Calvin Ridley had a pretty good year as well as a receiving threat, but not the same as those 4 guys for sure. Of course, we're talking about Mike Evans. Steve Largent is the most underrated. Yes, Keble.
Kevel will love that.
He is going to be loving that. I don't know where he went, but he is definitely loving that. If this was an all-time version, might have to be on that list. You know what I'm saying? Okay, people were talking about. I don't know about Mr. Edelman winning the underrated list for Mr. Keble because he won the Super Bowl MVP. He got the recognition. How is he underrated? What do you think about that? I know he's not able to defend himself, but
No, I think people are starting to give him recognition.
so he's getting into that proper.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's fair enough.
The guy I think's underrated is Wes Welker. Personally,
Legend.
Personally, that's
he's not dead, but like he's severely missed in today's NFL. That's all I want to say. He's a great 49ers receiver coach. I gotta appreciate what he's doing there. Ultra with the donation, $3.99. Appreciate it, bro. Any donation is perfect.
Ghost Skittle's too young to even know Welker.
Don't
says Welker is overrated. Look at his stats.
I'm sorry. Did Ghost Skittle said this?
Yes.
All right, sorry, buddy. You're done. You're done.
I'm just gonna look up Wes Welker right now.
Wes Welker single-handedly won me a fantasy championship in 2012.
There you go.
I was 13, and I drafted.
Wes Welker is a 3-time NFL receptions leader, a 2-time second-team All-Pro, a 2-time first-team All-Pro, a 5-time Pro Bowler. He made 3 Super Bowls. Looking at his stats real quick. Give me a second here. I would say in the 2009 season, he was arguably the best receiver in the entire league. He had 123 catches, 1,348 yards. And then he went over 120 receptions twice.
That's insane.
And then he had over 110 5 times. And yet he's overrated.
He can't be overrated. It's impossible. He's the reason why everybody wants a white slot receiver. Everybody wants to be Wes Welker. Cole Beasley is the imitation cheese of Wes Welker because he wants to be him. Wes Welker invented this genre of football, okay? So there's no way he's under or overrated. It's impossible. And by the way, it was that year that he won me the championship, that crazy, ridiculous year. And I drafted him in like the 8th round of the fantasy draft because nobody was looking at him, which is a definition of underrated. Ghost Skittle says, you've been watching Big Brother? Absolutely, baby. Week 2, I guess.
He's also the only white receiver ever to have a 99-yard touchdown. Just going to say that.
Does it have to matter for that case?
Yeah.
I do remember that game. It was against the Dolphins, and I was like, oh, my God, he's going. No.
It was the first game of the year. It was Monday Night Football.
That's a great way to start off fantasy football when you get a 99-yard touchdown. You look at your phone.
I had Welker and Brady.
So that would be, yeah. That's, bro, you won the game. You won the game right there. That was like, what? Hold on. That's 10.9 for reception. That's 16.9 points in one play per receiver. And then the touchdown. That's like, oh my God, ridiculous. Let's see, Galladay is rated. Jeremy says Stafford is underrated. Well, that's in the quarterback category, but I mean, we know, you guys know what we feel about Matthew Stafford.
He used to be. I don't know if he still is.
Ultra's top 10 receivers in the game, because we've been talking about top receivers, even though we have an underrated list, which is funny to me. 1, Julio. 2, Hopkins. 3, AB. 4, Odell. 5, Tyreek Hill. 6, Devontae Adams. 7, Michael Thomas. 8, Adam Thielen. 9, T.Y. Hilton. And number 10, Mike Evans.
Evans is way too low.
See?
The rest of the list, though, I agree with. I don't agree with it necessarily, like the order, but I like the list.
You like the people involved in the list.
Yeah, let me check again.
See, somebody almost put it near the top 10. I'm gonna say.
Like I'd have Mike Evans 6th.
6th?
Yeah.
That's a fair assumption. I really like Devontae Adams, though. I think he had a great last year. I was very.
Yeah, he would.
He put himself in a new tier for me.
I feel like you're missing somebody, but I can't.
Can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe he's not.
Maybe because I think he got everybody personally, but
Yeah.
I have to look at it. Don't sleep on Sanders from the Eagles, says Butch. I believe.
He's a rookie.
What's that?
He's a rookie, not on the
Yeah, I was
list.
about to say he's the running back for the Miles Sanders. He's good. I really like him, but I can't put a rookie on an underrated list because I haven't seen him play. So I do want to mention Dalvin Cook on my underrated running backs list. I think that's another guy that's going to put up.
Yeah, I think he's a breakout. Like if there's a breakout list, he'd be on it.
Okay.
I don't know if he's underrated though.
I just think because we haven't seen a whole lot of him, and people are like putting him. Well,
I will say about Dalvin Cook, every time I watch the Vikings, when he played, he was the best player on that offense, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah. Kevo, you're back, buddy. You were on mute, sir.
I was going to say I consider Damian Williams for the underrated list, but I think he's also on a breakout list as well.
Okay.
Sure.
We might have to make this lit. We might have to make this as another topic. I like that. Bus Boy has his top 5 underrated receivers. Number 5, Dante Moncrief. We talked about how we don't think that's it.
No.
Number 4, Kenny Galladay. Brought it up. Cooper Kupp is number 3. Number 2, D.D. Westbrook. There you go, Mitch. And number 1, Will Fuller. When he's on the field, absolutely.
All right. Are we about done?
Yeah.
We got a couple more comments here. Let's see if we got anything else. Then we are almost done.
All right.
Ultra says Michael Thomas is overrated, which goes to the response with, "You're a biased Falcons fan." Well, he was a Saints fan for a while.
You know what is hilarious nowadays is the fact that nobody looks at my background. They only look at the jersey, and they think I'm a fan of the team with the jersey. So, like, every time I make a video, everybody says I'm biased towards that team, even though I have a Patriots background.
Have they, just a curious question, right? Have they watched any other video?
No, but probably not. But they're just commenting like you're just biased. Like, dude,
It can't be possible. I know it's because we've been on videos for so long, but like you look at you for 1 second, I would be a Patriots fan.
like honestly though, like I'm at the point of my fandom in the NFL, and I've been like this for a while now, where I am not biased towards any team. Honestly, I said this before my last video. I like every team in the league. I don't hate any teams. I like certain players on every team. I like certain positions, things they do. I'm not biased toward your team. I may think they're bad at certain things, but that's just what I think. I gotta rank them. I can't put everybody at number 1.
All I'm gonna say is I only hate one organization, and I still think it's for a very valid reason. If you guys
I like the Jets.
Oh, mine's the Giants because I cannot stand their organization. But the thing is that it's not biased. You're gonna tell me that what they've been doing is correct. Come on now, like don't even try that argument. And I still try to be fair. I'm like they had decent draft picks. They still got Saquon Barkley. They got good players. I just don't understand their future. You're gonna put Golden Tate as your.
Oh yeah, I that's an opinion though. I don't think is that bias from your perspective, or is that just your opinion? Because there's a difference between thinking one thing and being biased.
Right, because if I was to say
being incorrect on your analysis and sticking by that analysis because you don't like them.
Yeah. Like if I was to say like Saquon is the worst running back we have in this game, that's biased because I would be like, oh, I hate the Giants, and therefore
that would be like being like, oh, Saquon's like the 11th best running back in the NFL.
Right.
Like
it's not how I feel.
That'd be stupid.
That would be stupid. It would be very stupid. That being said, no, I'm kidding. Let's see. Let's see if we have anything else here. Jackson says Hopkins definitely over Julio Jones. Jones slightly better from, say, 40 yards and out, but Hopkins is clearly better at finishing drives in the end zone.
Hopkins is better in this one area. Contested catches.
Okay, that works too.
Because he's the best of anybody in that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's in that upper echelon. But when it comes to route running, release, deep speed, deep ball, Julio's the best. When you all compile it into one, Julio is the best.
Julio injured a Dallas Cowboy because he tried to intercept the ball. That doesn't tell you anything, you know. I'm just saying he's got that strength about him.
And I think he says a similar comment about Antonio Brown later.
Okay.
Comparing him to Julio. I want to see Antonio Brown outside of Ben. I love Antonio Brown's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
But you guys don't underestimate how freaking good Ben Roethlisberger is, especially putting the ball right on the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they both have to. It takes two to tango, but you look at what Ben Roethlisberger was able to do, and it was crazy. Like he's like, I know AB's good at this, so I got to throw it in this position so that he can do his magic. We'll see what Derek Carr brings to the table versus Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Let's see if we got anything else. I know there's a lot more comments. I just want to see if there's anything particularly better. He did pioneer the slot receiver, but he's overrated. You just told me why you're wrong. He made a position. He started and but made this position popular. And like, no.
Who are we talking about?
Oh, I said Wes Welker is underrated.
And he said,
who said it? Ghost Skittle said he's overrated, which I don't think Ghost Skittle's old enough to remember Wes Welker.
It's physically impossible. It is physically impossible for him to be overrated. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I cannot agree with this statement. It is saddening to me that at least one person thinks this.
No, it's actually like Patriots fans don't like Wes Welker, and I'll give you one
because he went to Denver.
No, because of the drop catch.
The drop catch
wasn't really his fault, but you know,
you can't win them all, right? Come on.
That's why Patriots fans hate him.
Guys, it's like Bret Hart. Get over it, man. It happens. Jeremy Hansman says Packers winning the division this year. I will not confirm that. I do not think that will happen. But anybody else want to sign off on that agreement?
I'm not announcing my picks until August.
Oh, you're very political answer. I like that. Mitch, any
Sorry, what'd you say?
Packers winning the division this year.
Oh, I'll say this. I think any of those teams can win the division, and I'll leave it at that.
Another political answer. I love it. Perfectly acceptable answers, but political is all hell.
Golden. We'll wait for our predictions.
Wait,
bro.
Can't give them all out right now. We do that. You gotta wait. Aaron Rodgers overrated. Now we can answer this question because A, Mitch has already done a video for this, and B, I signed off on it. Yes. Kev, you want to put your stamp on this? Thinking.
Last year was not a good year for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, generally, if we overrate Ben, if Ben is in the conversation of overrated, then I think it's fair to put Aaron Rodgers in that same conversation.
Well, I wouldn't put Big Ben in my overrated list.
I think that a lot of people would. I think a lot of people would put Ben in their overrated list.
I need to see it because I thought last year was really good, and I thought a lot of people were like, you know.
Well, it overrated in the sense that Ben's a bit of a diva. Ben comes across as a diva. Like, I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, but that's not personal. That's not about his football game, though.
But, well, I think the way that sometimes he acts, I think at times makes him come across a little bit overrated. I'm okay with saying Aaron Rodgers is overrated. Actually, I think that is an absolutely fair comment. I think that we quickly put him in the top 10 in all times. And there are other guys like Drew Brees that have just simply done it in a more in a steady way that we don't talk about in the same way. So I would agree with that.
All right.
I think my point really with Ben and anyone else is I was just thinking in my head how I compare the conversation about Aaron Rodgers with everybody else, and it's always been about greatness, and other players we don't necessarily do that. So I'm willing to be open to the conversation that Aaron Rodgers is overrated.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I absolutely agree with that. I think he's overrated. I don't know about Ben. Personality wise, I just don't like him. But yeah, I agree there. Butch says, "Great channel, guys. I'll be back a lot more often. Thanks. That's what I like to see. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
We got more content on the way, no doubt. And by the way, guys, we just hit the mark 13,000 subscribers at the end of this video. Boom, let's go, baby. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for hitting that, letting us hit that milestone. Anything else? Apparently, I'm delusional. I appreciate that. I don't know what for, but Wes Welker is not like Eric Decker. Come on.
Okay, let's end the podcast.
We're gonna be done there. I appreciate you guys for tuning in.
No, I wanted to ask a very quick question. Can I just ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I know that this is not necessarily an NFL topic, but I'm generally curious about this. I hope it doesn't take a long. I think we all want to go, but I want to have this conversation because a couple of your experts down there, Dilly, in your state,
yes,
Skip Bayless, has said it's very terrible and awful to play in Canada.
It depends where.
So, yeah. So I'm kind of curious, Dilly. I'm curious from your perspective. What do you think Canada is?
See, here's the thing, right? When Luca was going to come on, I was going to make this joke. I'm like, I'm already outnumbered 3-1 in the Canada department, so I've always been outnumbered here on this channel. But the thing is like Stephen A. said, like, I don't want to see another championship in Canada, which I feel like was kind of racist or kind of out there, like kind of being a stereotype. What does it mean to me? It's a weird market. Like it's not a bad market. It's a good market. It's different because in every sport besides hockey, there's always one. There's always that one outlier to it. Canada, I think, has 7 hockey teams, correct?
Yeah.
7? Okay. So it's a much different thing. And even for God's sakes, basketball was invented in Canada. So like I like it. I'm cool with it. I have no problem with it. I don't know why other people like Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith have such a problem with it, but I agree with Mitch. It's about market. It's about where you're at. Toronto is a great market. They work well. Blue Jays, Raptors, of course. I'm out about it. I think other places have failed because the Expos are gone. They've been gone for 15 years. But Vancouver Grizzlies, they didn't work out. So it just depends on market. I'm not mad about it, but like there's places like Toronto that are much better at promoting to the States than other places. I just don't know why other sportscasters have such a big problem with it here.
I was just curious because I mean this has been the whole debate, right, where Kawhi is going, and I for the record do think it's probably going to be the Lakers, but I just don't think it's going to be.
I hope not.
I just don't.
Let's go.
I just don't think it's like, my gosh, it's a terrible location. I can't believe that like no athlete will want to play in Canada. Like the hyperbole coming out from some of this is like some of these people is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it's insane. They go off on like all these tangents about why would you want to be here? Like stay here in the States and have all this luxury and all that. It's like dude, he can do what he wants. He clearly just won a championship for Toronto. He can, why does it bother you that he's playing there? It's very questionable. My thing is that I hope he doesn't go to LA. I really hope he doesn't go.
I really do hope he goes.
Oh God, why watch the season? They're gonna
because LeBron probably won't play for most of it. So.
Yeah, we would see a legacy pass.
Why would he not play?
Because he's LeBron. I don't know.
He played 82 games in 2017.
He barely played last year.
Because he was hurt. He was hurt 17 games.
Yeah, I was just curious. I just had that thought because I know that there are Americans watching. So I'm curious. Are you guys scared of Canada?
Are people scared of Canada? Put that in the comment. Are you scared of Canada? I am not. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate that, Kev, though. I like that. It's a little bit different, As somebody that's never been there. Now, I've never, been over there, but that's just how I feel outside. And almost as polar opposite in terms of, miles apart as you could be here. But thank you guys for watching. That was episode 10 of the Bottom Line Podcast. Last second plugs. Kev, anything to plug here?
We will be recording another hockey podcast this weekend.
Podcast, yes. Put it over.
Yeah, we're going to recap the free agency. We're going to talk about the offer sheet and how effective and ineffective it was. We're going to talk about the Canucks fan base and their love for Jim Benning. We also talked to Corey Hergott about the development camp for the Canucks. We'll might probably chat a little bit Flames development camp too, and a bunch of other stuff. So check that out. Be out tomorrow.
Perfect. Good stuff there. Mitch, I know you got more videos coming along. What do you got?
Okay, so I am going to be putting out my rankings for every defense in the NFL probably tomorrow. I got to film it. I got to edit it. So there's a lot that goes into that. And I have just decided I'm going to make a Wes Welker video. So there you go.
There's our Wes Welker video. Love it. Off the podcast. Perfect stuff. Of course, thank you guys for 13,000. Very appreciative of that. We're going to continue to do more stuff here. We're working with Luca to get something. I'm hoping. I'm not even going to tell you the date because I don't have it set. But I'm hoping we get something there. We're working on it. And more podcasts are coming up, and I'm excited for more stuff as we're inching very close. We're getting slowly grinding every day towards the start of the NFL season, where we got more great stuff before we get to that moment. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hit the notification button. You're going to see all those videos pop up here on your feed, and more podcasts to come. So for Kev and Mitch, it's Dylan. Peace out.
Peace.